So let's talk. I'm so excited. This is Luxembourg, right?
We are also very, very happy that you'll be coming again to Luxembourg. And first of all, congratulations on your Grammys.
Thank you.
You got Grammys for Sputnik and also the album Data Lords, which you
Yeah.
will present at your concert in Luxembourg.
Yeah, we'll play a whole lot of music from that. We'll probably pull out a couple other things to I don't know, I'll pick a whole variety, but mostly it'll be Data Lord stuff. And yeah, we were at your hall not long after it was built, I think. I think it was pretty new and I was so impressed. I just loved it. It's a fantastic hall. For me, it's like in Europe of the halls we played, sonic, well, it's so beautiful too, but sonically, it's really, really great. So I'm excited.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
great to hear. I
Yeah.
wanted to ask you the question afterwards, whether you remember your concerts.
Oh, very much. And I also remember those boxes, that were on the side. They go over where the stage is, and somebody dropped their cell phone, and my drummer went over and grabbed the cell phone and took it and walked back to the drums. Like, it was really funny. I remember that. Anyway, yeah, no, I remember the concert very well. We were so happy to be there, and I'm super excited to come back. And just, we have not played now in almost 2 years, except for one outdoor concert. That's
Wow.
crazy. Yeah.
How has this changed you as an artist or as a person as well? Can you already tell?
You know, it's hard for me to say. Um, it's been a very strange year for me in so many ways because I was working and finishing my album when everything hit, right? And it wasn't yet done. So there were these suddenly at the very end, these very intensive months of trying to do work that I would normally do in person with engineers and things that was over the internet, and dealing with the production and everything slowing down and being behind. And then, of course, I sell all my music through Artist Share. So Artist Share is a wonderful site that enables me to own my own work, to, communicate with the fans and everything. But everything I make is loaded with videos so that what people don't just buy music or buy the printed music, but they get the interviews and all this content, which is an intensive amount of work. And so I have, in the last months, I've not really been a creative musician. I've done a couple of arrangements for something, but mostly I've been working on that website because it is my only income. And so editing music, working on those videos, it's been very intensive. But I have to say, I don't feel like writing music these days. I don't know why, and I'm trying to be easy on myself because, on one hand, I think we all feel in this limbo. Music is like Data Lords came out of responses. I didn't sit down with an idea and say, I'm angry at the big data companies, so let me try to write music about that. That would be interesting. No, I sit down and I start making music, and when I hear the sounds, suddenly it will connect with something in my head, connect with, something, all of a sudden I'll be like, oh, I'll see things, memories or images or whatever. And then the piece comes out of it. And then I say, wow, I guess that was about that, and the whole album, the double album that I made for Data Lords was really because some of the music was very intense, and it was inspired by this fight I've had to protect our intellectual property and our human rights and privacy and everything about the internet that is just these American companies. And make no mistake, a lot of them are American companies, that are affecting people all over the world. You guys, sometimes I wonder why the rest of the world isn't like, staging an all-out war against these corporations and the United States for not regulating it. That's really crazy to me. But anyway, on the other hand, then, in life, I go birding. Like here, I'm looking at my birds and gardening and planting native plants for my bugs and my butterflies and my birds. And so some of the music would come out of that. And so I ended up with this crazy, like, opposite worlds. And then I realized, oh my God, that is what we are struggling with. This, being sucked into the computer and the internet and people on Facebook, not me, because I don't spend time on that, but, and then trying to connect with our real lives, and our real selves and our real relationships, not relationships through social media, but connecting with people or silence. And so the pandemic hit and this music came out, and all of a sudden these were the issues people were feeling.
Exactly, because us talking about this on this platform, it's kind of ironic in a way. It's just
It is ironic, but what I know a lot of people have felt like, there'd be all these articles coming out, people going on walks to try to disconnect and reconnect to nature. And sure enough, when the pandemic hit, I went to buy plants and everything was gone. And they said, everybody's planting their gardens, and there was no bird seed. Everybody's feeding the birds. So, I think people discovered, on one hand, they became really dependent on Zoom, On the other hand, they became really aware of how wonderful it was to feel connected with themselves. And so getting back to why I brought this up is, as musicians, we are so often on a runaway train, we get the gigs, we go where we get the gigs. It's like our life leads us around the schedule. What happens outside of us tells us, dictates what we do. And it's very hard to control your own life. And so suddenly so many musicians were with ourselves, and it's a very confusing place to be, because we haven't lived this way since we were young, and oh, it's weird. It's weird. We'll see what happens. It's tough, financially for a lot of people.
yeah, I think the business, the music world is definitely changing, and I'm just impressed also how you managed to strike a nerve at exactly the right moment. You couldn't, of course, big tech and everything was also huge before, but your album came out at the very moment where this was almost the only our only connection to the world for many artists as well, streams and streaming. And
it was a moment where the dichotomy between the tech world and the real world became uber evident to people all over the world, because people started to realize what they'd been losing too, and that you connect through Zoom, but suddenly, what does it mean to be with somebody and touch somebody? One thing I was going to say is also who I feel very sorry for in the industry, as much as the musicians, maybe more, are the agents, the managers. Because, for instance, as a musician, okay, we lost our gigs, but we're not running around doing our gigs and not being paid. But a lot of agents did all the work to get the tours together. They did the part that they should be paid for, but the gigs never happened. So they did the work, but then they weren't paid. And that is even more painful, so it's like all of us, that are connected on each other. It's a whole ecosystem. And there's a lot of people suffering. I'm sure for your concert hall, this has been a really tough year.
We have been lucky because we were always able to produce things in our hall, but we had to switch mainly to digital outlets.
Okay.
So we're coming kind of back to this dichotomy. And I'm wondering whether you see a possibility for this digital and natural world to reconcile, or will this always be kind of two worlds apart that can't come together?
I don't think it will reconcile until there is a recognition that the data that big data companies are getting from us, a recognition by our governments, by tax authorities and everything, and by all of us, that there is a value of that for that. That isn't something that companies should get and not have to pay taxes on or compensate us. You know, it's a barter. We get all these free services, but they get our data. But they're not paying taxes on the value of that, yet that data has made them the richest, not only the richest companies in the world, the most powerful companies in the world that are dictating our politics, our thought, our culture. You know, they're deciding, you know, they're the deciders of what can be on the internet, what's appropriate, what's not. They never look at themselves and say, are we actually appropriate? What makes us the God that decides, you know, who should get to be there, who shouldn't, you know? To me, culture should play itself out. You can't have a world that gets better without the discourse between sides that have different opinions and that listen to each other and that cooperate. There's a cultural aspect. There's frankly, there's a racial aspect that's not fair because the algorithms, we don't see the algorithms and we don't know how they're manipulating us and how they're being unfair to somebody because of their race, because of their economic, you know, am I being charged more or less because I have less? Am I not being given the same insurance or the same opportunity for this because the algorithm sort of senses a risk with me because of who I am or what color I am? You know, it's like, you know, and then the company can say, oh, you know, oh, it's just the algorithm. We don't know what's going on. You know, so there's all these aspects about this that are frankly, we should know. So until there's transparency, a recognition of the value of the data, and there's the choice to not participate in this if we want, and to turn it off, I think it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. I don't feel, and you were asking about my music. It's difficult to feel like making art when you start to feel like you are no longer optimistic about the world. And I've lost my optimism about the world. I'm scared for how things are going, very.
But do you think the fact that you will hopefully very soon be able to play concerts again, to tour and to connect with people in the real world, that this will make you more optimistic again? And
I don't know. I don't know. To me, you know, music has always, for me, been a way to express life. Even as a kid, you know, I was always if I was writing music, which I wrote a few pieces here and there, you know, I would write them for a friend that sort of encapsulated their personality. I was always writing music that felt like it was an expression of our relationship, of things in life, you know, and you know, I'm not sure what to think of the world right now. I'm in disbelief. I'm in disbelief at the world and what's happening to our culture. I feel like I'm a pretty apolitical person. You know, I check out both sides, and I think I'm very rare in that way because I want to know. I grew up with people on both sides, you know, it's like, and I always found that interesting. And I find it dangerous that people don't find that interesting anymore. You know?
Yeah,
I
I get what you mean. Yeah. But I mean, maybe the utopia or the ideal view would be that people can come together at, for example, a concert of yours and be in the same room, maybe get talking during the entr'acte, or yeah.
Well, I do. I've experienced a lot that at my concerts, especially when I started doing these pieces and talking about this subject, I had a lot of people thank me. A lot of parents thanked me and told me that, or would write me later and tell me that they had conversations around the dinner table about it with their kids, a subject that normally the kids were in their phone, and really talking about what does this stuff mean. I've gotten a lot of email commenting about the album and how it hit them and how they agreed, and you know, actually, I don't know, I can't think of anybody that sent things that was pushback. Although I will say, when I first started talking about this subject years ago, like, I don't know, maybe 6 years ago or 7 years ago. And I would go to colleges and I would talk to music business classes about things and about their music being shared on the internet for free. And in the very early stages, I would get pushback from all these, kids that were trying to be cool and buying into the free, everything should be free on the internet. Oh, that's so cool. And you're so old, and it was kind of, I would get that at certain school. I never get pushback that way now. What I experience is that students come up and say, what can we do? We don't know what to do. We're really scared about our future. That's generally what I hear. So things are evolving, and yeah, music, art does make change happen. Like I say, there are many musicians that dream up projects. I'm going to write this about that, or, I just never worked that way. I'm not a planner. I, I, I make what comes, it's like a divining rod, or sometimes I say it's almost like a Ouija board, I write music and it sort of tells me, it helps me understand myself. As a matter of fact, I didn't understand how much I was struggling with hanging on to these two parts of myself till I recognized this dichotomy in my music, that I was saying, how can I put all this music on an album? And then I looked at it and I said, well, if that's my life, how can I put these two forces together in a life, in my body, in my mind, in my psyche, in my spirit? And the answer so far is, I haven't figured it out. I had to put them on two different albums. They're on two different CDs because they don't mesh for me yet. So
how will you present them in concerts?
I go back and forth. In a concert, I go back and forth, which is a little easier than on an album, because on an album, when you have something so intense and then something so soft, you literally have to bring up the volume. Otherwise, somebody's always going to the volume knob. It's just like a physical thing, so, and it makes the music sound artificial when you do that too much. So, but in a concert, you can get away with it. So in a concert, after I finish a very intense piece, I'll say, okay, now we're going to go into the space of a piece of pottery with a stone in it, a little stone that's waiting for years to be bumped or kicked or rolled, so I bring in, and then after that, I'll be like, okay, we're back to the big data, So it's sort of like people are sort of like, whoa. It'll be interesting. We'll see. I've done it back and forth at gigs. It was funny. It was at a gig. One of my Artist Share participants, this man, Justin Freed, I ended up dedicating one of my pieces to him, Sansanen. And it was him after a gig, he said, you've got to record this music. And I said, but Justin, you just heard it's left, it's right, it's up and down. He said, make two different albums. It was him that said it, but he meant like make two different albums. And then it was that night when I went home and I was like, wait a minute, two CDs that tell the yin and the yang of our world, so that's how it happened. It'll be very interesting to see. Well, it's not interesting, it's scary, but anyway, this is what we're dealing with. These are the trials of our times.
Yeah, yeah, and to finish on a good note, we're really, really looking forward to having you and to have the
Yeah, me
the
too.
real experience, the life experience.
Yeah,
Once
and I will
again,
say, when I present this music, I don't go on a rant, because to me there also is the importance in some of the music that, even though this is a very real subject, I still also like to put some sarcasm and humor, and you know what I mean, some there has to be some humor. It's in the darkness, otherwise it's like, where do you go, you know? So lest somebody hear this and say, oh my gosh, I don't think I can handle that. We'll make sure it's fun. Like you gotta, in the end, you gotta laugh and you gotta have fun. So we'll try to do that.
yeah, and I mean, even during this interview, we laughed, and
Yeah.
so I can see how you're still handling this darkness in a very light way.
Have you ever seen Life of Brian, the
Oh
Monty
yes.
at the end on the cross says, look on the bright side of life. There we are. I think of that more often than you can imagine these days.
Oh, are you going to do something nice still today? Like you're going out in the garden,
Oh
or?
yes, I bought some plants. I'm gonna plant some things in planters and stuff, and try to separate the day, you know, the email and everything, and do. It's a beautiful sunny day. The birds, it's spring migration, so the birds, the warblers are all coming. So I'll see who showed up today, and yeah, it's nice. The hummingbirds are here, our bluebirds. Oh,
Great.
yeah, there's a lot in life that's extraordinary. The
Yeah.
birds don't know about any of this stuff. They just keep migrating, just hoping that that place that they nest is still there. And, you know, that's another subject. Birds. Next time we'll talk about birds.
Yes, yes, please.
Okay.
But thanks so much for talking to us today, for taking the
Thank,
time.
thank you.